right, hello and welcome to Are You Cirrus? Episode number 33, the next to the last episode of season 2.
It's crazy to think that we've done 33 of these already.
I know.
I'm really excited for this one, and we're going to kind of dive into it quickly. But first, end of November.
Yeah, hurricane season done.
Done.
At least by the books.
I was about to say.
By the books.
Yeah. One of these years we're
Mother
going to say
Nature
done.
doesn't play exactly by the rules, but for the most part, it's done.
Thanksgiving, done.
Yep.
Christmas music on. If you're one of those people that wait toward the end of Thanksgiving, welcome to the club. We're finally now in it.
Now we can all sync up and be happy that we're putting our trees
Lord.
up. The anti-tree before Thanksgiving people can finally relax.
There's some people in the newsroom. I hope they can just listen to that clip because I've been listening since the 1st of November. I think we dive into it again.
Yeah.
And really get into this. And I'll let you introduce.
Yeah.
You want to introduce?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
introduce.
Cool.
I'll introduce.
I feel like I know this person.
Same. And we've actually never met until literally he walked in the door for this. Without further ado, it is Mitch West, someone who is quickly growing not only sort of in the Carolina weather community, but just in the storm chaser community in general. From South Carolina, kind of started following each other on Twitter. Dude, like you're hitting all of it, and you're getting good,
Really good.
and you're getting a big audience. I mean, you're
started out in South Carolina, then went to the Southeast, then basically labeled it as the Eastern U.S. and then I had people trying to request to do the Western U.S. So I started taking some shots at that, but that's tricky. So many microclimates out there, mountainous regions, and I just give my best guess at it and try.
Yeah.
But definitely started just here in South Carolina. Just kept going. It's been awesome.
So let's go back to the very beginning. Where did your passion for weather come from?
My grandpa. Call him my papo.
Yep.
He's passed now, but he, I used to just sit on the recliner with him.
Yeah.
Watch the Weather Channel. Kind of like a lot of people's story who has a passion for weather. Just sit on the recliner with him, watch the local in the 8s, and just every time I went over to his house, that's the channel would be on.
Yeah.
And we just sit there and watch the Weather Channel together. And, somewhere along the line, preteen, teenage years, it grew more.
Yeah.
And grew into something bigger. And it just never stopped growing. But that's where the core of it came from. That's where it originated from.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Also, we'll talk more about your YouTube channel because I think that's where I didn't know you did that at first. We found each other on Twitter through Jamie. I was like, oh, man, have you seen this Mitch West guy? Love what he does. And then one morning, I saw that I was up and you were up. I said, what is this man doing up at 4:30 in the morning? And why is he posting a YouTube? For people that don't know, and we'll give all the details to where you can catch up, you do a daily forecast video that dives into the United States in detail. Why we wanted to bring you on to Are You Cirrus is because I think our listeners and our viewers can learn from what you're teaching. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to the very first time you did a video. I don't know if you remember what that was like. Where did the idea come from and what sparked that interest?
So it kind of goes back to Twitter. I still call it Twitter, but
we're not calling it X.
We're old school.
So I started a Twitter account December 2015.
Okay.
And I would just post regularly, kind of like a lot of weather enthusiasts and people out there. And I would just post all the time. And when we had bigger events, I would post about it. And even, with just normal weather, kind of like right now, just post. And 4.5, 5 years on down the road, you get to December of 2020. I thought, I put a lot of effort into this. Mm-hmm. What's a way I can get back? Mm-hmm. So, I was kind of before your Ryan Halls and all the other huge weather people that are out there. And but there was still a couple people who did it. But, I just tossed around the idea in my head, and I just could not let go of it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use January 1st, 2020 to be the start of YouTube and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. And I started in my shed.
I love this.
I'm still not great with technology. Still not great with it at all, which is crazy coming from someone who has a semi-successful YouTube channel. But I started in my shed. I actually had just a camera set up in my shed, and if you go way back to some of my older videos, you'll see it. It's just a camera on me, just talking for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I would have to actually edit like stuff from like Tropical Tidbits into the video. Man, it would take so long, but I was just overworking myself. I was thinking too much into it, and all I had to do the entire time was download a screen recording like software or something.
Yeah.
So when I did that late 2020, that's when the growth kind of went like this to like that. And but yeah, I mean that's where YouTube started.
Yeah.
But the growth, I don't know if you know this, but the criteria with YouTube, you got to get 1,000 subscribers.
We should be taking notes probably.
And
We should listen to this.
4,000 watch hours in an overrunning 1 year period. So that was my goal. Had to do it in a year, and I did in 11 and a half months. It was a grind, did it, and I guess the rest is history.
Did you get all that?
What happens when you do that?
You apply to be monetized. So
Okay, so our station's done that. That's where we brought back the $74.
We've made
for us.
79. We've made $79 on this.
man.
on this file.
you get to 100, they'll pay you out.
Really?
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go. Could you imagine our first check? Well,
Hey, it's
do they bring
exciting.
it in a check? Like,
No, direct deposit about mid-month, once a month.
still though, that would be pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
How much you want to bet we will never see a penny
We-
of it?
Yeah.
We brought on our news director last week, and we said, "Hey, by the way, where's our $75 at?" And he said, "Well, it's in your coffee mugs." I was like, "Oh, that's
and the
not fair."
mics.
And
Yeah,
the mics.
barely paid for the mics.
The mics. So, when it comes to weather, you said your interest in weather began. We talked about the YouTube channel, Tropical Tidbits. We've talked about that many times on this. Forecasting.
Yeah.
Where did forecasting start for you? Where did you start to grow into that role and really become? Because let me tell you, you're one heck of a forecaster.
Yeah.
You know your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. First off, credit goes to everybody in the weather community, even
The best.
to you guys, to people who don't even have degrees. I don't have a degree. And I've, especially over the last 2-3 years, I've tried to soak in as much knowledge as possible from other people. Part of doing the forecasting is, just like you guys, I try to explain things to the people in a way that they're going to understand. So,
Love that.
you got to teeter-tot nerding out, but you want to kind of geek out in a way where they're going to understand you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you're always going to go overboard. Sometimes, you're just going to give them the surface information. But most of the people you view myself appreciate it. Of course, you can occasionally get a comment. It's like, Mitch, just tell me if it's going to snow or rain or not. And you just got to, okay. But the forecasting really started just when I started the YouTube channel. I mean, the goal with the channel was never just storm chasing content. I would argue that's like 25% of the channel. When I go out and storm chase, I'll upload whatever I got. But I mean, I would just say forecasting started. I mean, anybody who has an interest in weather, I imagine, has maybe not an interest in getting up in front like you guys and forecasting in front of an audience, but I'm sure wants to at least talk weather with people. So,
And I think you're a perfect example of how to do it right
Bingo, I was about to say that.
without the hype. We know
Appreciate that.
you have so many competitors on YouTube who will post a lot of things
I know.
that aren't quite on par, quite accurate. In fact, I've already seen them
I have
starting
too.
to show up this week. About some crazy weather events and the GFS for 14 days out, and it's thrown up there, and it's all clickbait. And you're not doing that, which is great. But I think it's also great that so many people have a really deep interest in weather.
Yeah.
Just true weather weenies, and you don't have to have the degree to really embrace that. And you are the perfect example where you soak it in and you make the most of it, and you learn, and and you can become a very valuable member of the weather community. And I love that. I love that.
it.
Yeah, for sure. That makes me think of this podcast in a way too. There's been some episodes where we've really nerded out. There's also been some episodes and even some viewers from this podcast who have brought up weather-related terms like, hey, I want to learn more about this, which I feel like is what your channel is doing. I will give Mitch even more benefit. I feel like every time I watch and there's a big storm coming, he'll call them out in a nice way, but you'll say, hey, I'm seeing all these posts that are coming. I don't fully buy that. And he's basically saying, listen, I'm going to tell you what I can tell you.
Yeah.
And that's it, which I love. And you do it every single day. I do want to touch on storm chasing because
I want
that's
to touch
where
on storm chasing a lot because
that's
what
where
I'm here for.
I discovered you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember what storm it was you went to, but let's go back to that first storm chase.
Okay.
Because you learn a lot. One storm, and we've storm chased. We haven't storm
Yeah.
chased probably as much as you have, but you learn a lot. What was your first storm chase like?
The first real one was May 5th, 2020. Very spontaneous. Worked a full day of work, got off work, and there was a lone supercell up in the upstate of South Carolina. I feel like 2020 was a crazy year, but it was a crazy year for weather too.
Yeah.
People forget that. It was
it was.
You know, we all know about the hurricane season, but anyways, there was this lone storm and it was just your classic looking supercell. Had the hook that was getting going, a massive hell core on it. And my cousin was living with us at the time. And I looked at him. I was like, "You want to go up 77 and chase this storm?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it, man." And you know, he's just my cousin. He supports my interests. He doesn't have a real huge passion with the weather, but he's an energy junkie like I am. So we went up there. Next thing we know, we're like 10 miles from the storm. It goes tornado warned, and I had a lot less experience then with just weather in general. I've learned a lot over the last 3 years. But getting back to that, this thing goes tornado warned. Funnel cloud drops right in front of us off 77, and it was a big learning experience. If we would have just drove 5 miles in the Great Falls, South Carolina, we would have saw the tornado. It was an EF, ended up dropping an EF2, but that was the first real chase, and that was when my eyes really opened up to a real interest in weather. But the real first long range chase that was serious was probably March of the next year, 2021. That's when I first saw my first tornado in Alabama.
I remember both of those events. I
remember the Alabama.
I can still see the pictures in my head of your first little supercell crossing 77. I remember that storm.
Yeah, that was the first chase.
Really good.
Sure.
You had some other fellow South Carolina chasers in and around with you. I think Chris Jackson, I believe, was on that storm.
I think he got footage of the hail big time.
Yeah, the big time hail.
Footage.
Yeah. So that's what we call kind of a backyard chase. That's what sort of we try to do when we have an opportunity.
When we're off and it's not too crazy.
When we're off and it's not too crazy. But then, like you said, you branch out. 2021, you're like, okay, I'm going to Alabama.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the new tornado alley. It's where everything's happening these days.
Right.
I imagine that was a big learning experience.
It was, and you know, a lot of people in the chasing community would frown upon this. I'm a bit of a loner when it comes to chasing, and it's good. It is good to have somebody, and you always remember that when you meet up with somebody. But I went out there by myself, high risk. Actually rented a car, and very minimum experience, but just happened to be at the right place and embedded in between a bunch of convection and storms, and just happened to be right there where the tornado was. And it wasn't your classic roping out tornado, which the deep south typically isn't like that, but you could see it coming down, and the power flashes, which immediately told us that this thing's making contact, and that was like, wow, I'm actually seeing it, and that was really awesome. But I had a lot of really good chases in 2021. I would say 2021 was a year that I really just like went wild with it, and went fully into it, not full time, but you know.
When you do it when you can. And then what was the blizzard? Didn't you go up to New Jersey
It's
for
so
a
sad when
blizzard?
you know so.
I know. We're like fangirling over here.
So just for emphasis, and this goes for you, this goes for Aaron, this goes for Chris, this goes for everyone in the South Carolina community. When there's a big day, we're here.
Yeah.
So we have, I know you have TweetDeck.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I pay for it too, because the one reason we paid for the new Twitter subscription is I have a chaser column of all the Carolina chasers. So when you all go out and we're like busy working here, I'm like, did you see Mitch's tweet?
Yep.
So like we remember, I feel like we've been on a chase with you, but we haven't. But yeah, the blizzard. Tell us about that.
Yeah, 2020, that was before obviously 2021. Now, that was a learning experience too. I went up with a guy named Bryce. You probably seen him out there. Yeah. He's kind of from here, but Me and him decided to go out there and chase this a week before Christmas, and that was a big winter storm. And one of the biggest regrets is not going to New York City, but it was COVID. But it would have been really cool to see pretty much a major snowstorm in a big city around Christmas time. But we decided to try to find a jackpot region, which we ended up in Scranton, and they did not hit the jackpot. They got a foot of snow, which was not a lot in that storm. I mean, it was a lot.
But for a South Carolina boy, that's pretty
good.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Yeah. But just it was a cool experience. It really was. Just I've never been that far north, and still have never been that far north since. And it was really cool just being there and seeing that much snow. But I'm so big on just it is so much better to see snow in your own backyard, man.
Same.
Oh my, it just does not hit. It does not hit the same.
Yeah, I agree.
But it was a fun experience. It was, and I try to be goofy in my storm chasing.
Yeah.
I'm serious when you need to be serious.
Yeah.
But I try to not joke around, but I'll make videos occasionally and just kind of loosen up the tension.
Yeah.
And that's just
and that's because for people like us, it is fun. It's fun to see it snowing and ripping 50 miles per hour. And again, like we always preface, we don't want to see the damage. We don't whatever. We don't care. We're weather geeks. We want to see it. We want to see the worst that Mother Nature can give us. So yeah, we do get excited and get happy and have fun.
Yeah, if you got a passion for it, there's a. Be careful with my words here, but you're definitely going. You want to see the weather happen, man. But that's how I feel.
No, totally right there
Trust
with you.
Me, we're the same way. It's not only tornadoes and snowstorms and blizzards, tropics. We're here at the end of hurricane season.
Right.
You've had your fair share in the tropics too. Walk us through some of those chases.
Yeah, Ida was my first long one. That was a grind. Ida in Louisiana, 2021.
A big one.
I planned that a few days out, but still wish I would have planned it better. One thing with me with storm chasing, very quick side story, is I love storm chasing, but I am not somebody that gets there 2 days before and then leaves 2 days after. I get there, I'm probably one of the last storm chasers to get there, and I'm probably one of the first ones to get out. And I'm just ready to get back to my family. But that chase was a grind. I left the afternoon before. Got all the way down there, and I started getting close to Mobile, and I was like, man, what am I doing? I'm alone. I'm driving my Mazda, which is my storm chasing vehicle, but and I'm like, man, this just does not seem safe. But I just kept going. I kept driving. I got into Louisiana, got through Mississippi, got into Louisiana. And I was like, dude, you're going to do this. And I did. I got south of New Orleans and got down there in the bayou and went all the way to Houma, where they were saying was going to be under feet of storm surge. And ended up posting shop in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Cool place, awesome parking garage. And me and a guy named Josh Griffith, I think is his last name, he's another guy in the weather community. He's awesome. And ended up being a blessing in disguise. I met him down there because I was alone. I met him down there, and me and him had a ball. I mean, we're the only ones out there in the parking lot, like holding on to stuff, like really getting the full effects of this thing. Everybody else, and there's no offense, everybody's doing the right thing and being safe. But they're in the parking garage just kind of filming, trying to stay dry. Me and him are the only ones. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of the storm chasers were filming us just out in the elements. But I drive all the way down there. I want to get some cool footage.
You want to feel it.
But I want to feel it.
You want to feel it.
I want to feel it. And I'll be honest, being out there in the storm chasing, you see a lot of people who do that. They're not out in it, which, I'm not trying to promote, lack of safety. But, when you're an energy junkie, if you're storm chasing, you're storm chasing.
You want to be a part of it.
So, that was a big one. And then Idalia. With Aaron and Bryce. That was cool. There's some stories on that one, man.
So how does that work with Bryce and Aaron and you, or even to Chase? Is this a text week out saying, hey, I'm thinking about going out. All right, we're going to tag team. Because I remember with Idalia, we said, all right, they're going down. There we go. Idalia was a crazy day and a half for you. You were down there quick.
I was up 38 hours straight. It was rough. I drove down there, last one to get there on the scene, met Aaron and Bryce. And, when you're just, like I said, when you're with somebody, the energy builds back up. You're talking, conversations, keeping the energy flowing. And, we rode it out. I think, what's that town's name? Perry. Perry got lashed by that eye wall. We didn't stay in Perry. We could have and probably could have got some pretty crazy, footage. That town got wrecked. But we ended up making, I would call it a mistake and say that we wanted to get in the middle of the storm, and we did. We saw the eye, but if y'all remember, that hurricane was weakening upon approach, which is good. But kind of saw a little brief clearing, and it was awesome. Great experience. But the way back,
I remember.
You think there's bad pine trees down here, down there. Oh man, it is just pine. Every tree's a pine tree. So, I actually had another storm chaser reach out to me and ask, "How is it down there?" And I said, we're closer to the ocean, and he's like, "How's the trees? How's I guess the terrain?" And he's like, "Is there a lot of pine trees?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's a lot of pine trees." Okay, and he's cool. He's just like, "All right, that's pretty much all I need to know."
Right.
We're worried about the pine trees, and I didn't really think about that much at the time. But when it was pulling out and we pulled back out on the road to try to get back to Perry, oh man, he had a truck. I had my Mazda. And I was just jacked up. I was making the most of it, and I was just driving over these pine trees in my Mazda and just trying to get through it, man. And not over, that thick, but you would have to drive around, and then here comes another one. You would think there ain't no way we're going to get past this. We would get past that. And then there was one, and it was and Aaron and Bryce looked at me and said, "Man, there's no way we can get past that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dude, if we don't get past this, nobody's coming to get us." And I basically looked at them. I said, "If I do it, will y'all do it?" And Bryce looked at me. He's like, yeah, we'll do it." So I drove up. I drove around, feathered the gas, got through it barely. Tires locked on the pavement. And I'm on the road, and I'm like, oh, man. So I look in my mirrors, and I start looking behind me. And you got to think, during this entire thing, you got 60, 80 mile per hour wind gusts
it's still
whipping.
going, yeah.
And he got stuck. And I remember stopping, saying, I said like a long 30, 45-second prayer. I was like, "Lord, please get us out of this, and I promise we will scoot on back home." And trying to shorten this as much as possible. Basically, Aaron hooked something up to my car. Man, I would say there was a 10-20% chance this was going to work.
To your Mazda?
To my Mazda, to his Toyota. And his truck was like this. I would say the water was almost to his driver's side door.
Oh, man.
And I was like, "Man, there's no way, but we're going to try it. Because, why not try it?" He hooked something up to, I forgot what he hooked it up to. And then he obviously hooked it up to the truck. And we tried it one or two times, and the third time, my tires locked on the pavement, and it gave him just enough boost to get out that hole. I'm telling you, man, it had to be less than in my head, percentage-wise, I would say it was below a 25% chance of this work.
Yeah.
It pulled him out. We made it all the way back home, decided to go to Charleston, and then I made it back home. But, man, that ride from Charleston back to my house, that was a brutal stretch. Those are the dangers of storm chasing, man.
Yeah.
When you're worn out and tired,
And especially on the backside when it's kind of over, and that adrenaline crashes. Man, when it crashes,
it is brutal.
Like adrenaline keeps you going. It keeps us going here, covering hurricanes.
We feel sick days after.
Yeah, but man, when it crashes that next day, it takes everything out of you.
It does, and it you think you can get that energy back by 10, 12 hours of sleep, but man, it lingers for 4 or 5 days.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a big routine-oriented person, so
wait till you're my age.
Yeah.
I'm still getting over Hurricane Ian. Like a year and a half later, I'm like, man, I'm tired.
Yeah, man, but it takes you 3, 4, 5 days to recover before you. And it's real subtle too. It's like the things that, like when you get home and you need to do a couple extra things when you get home, you just find yourself, you have no energy to do it. You're still catching up mentally and physically. So
I call that the tropical depression. It's like
There you
after
go.
a storm, it's like
awesome.
you're just sort of, you're in a fog. Because for so long leading up to a storm,
Like 2
whether it's
weeks
chasing
of-
or whether it's covering it from this side, literally your life revolves around that storm.
Oh, yeah.
It's even when you're home, looking at models.
All the updates.
We're texting each other, making plans, doing this, and it just consumes your life. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
Then the epic
And you're
crash.
like, oh, what do I do now?
There's no worse feeling, too, especially when it comes to hurricane season for us, which is why I'm glad this is the last day, to where we have like an Ian. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember Ian, but we did the surveys and all that the day of. We slept for like, 3 hours?
Yeah.
We're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then you look at the new update from the NHC, 30% chance of development. I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes now. I don't need anything else. But I can imagine that for storm chasing. I would hate myself if I did not bring up Allendale, because I remember that too.
Yes.
April 5th?
Yep.
That was
April 5th.
Yeah, that was the Easter outbreak, day after Easter.
No, I think
No,
I
or
think
am I
that
doing
was
them wrong?
I think that was 2020.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep.
So Allendale, was that an enhanced risk day
Yep.
for the state? I remember we were both here. The whole team was here. We were getting ready for a severe weather threat. Our buddy Mitch goes out, and I did not expect what was going to happen that day. I knew we would have storms.
I
Yeah.
don't think nobody did.
Yeah, I don't
Right
think we were
place,
expecting
right time.
basically an Oklahoma-like outbreak that day.
Yeah, that was crazy. That I would say that was my peak chase.
Really?
You know, I kind of grade things between how far do you have to drive,
Yeah.
what do you get, and something else, but I'm totally forgetting. But anyways, how far do you have to drive to get, I guess, before you see action?
Yeah.
And how much you spend. I grade that too. That's like the third one. How much do you have? How much
it
do you
ain't
fork
cheap.
out? Yeah. But you know, I don't know if you guys remember, but the worst of that was supposed to be in South Georgia.
Yeah.
Of course, it was really bad in Alabama. South Georgia was supposed to be bad. Kind of bumped up the enhanced risk into our state. And I got all the way through Augusta, and I'm heading to South Georgia, and I just get this feeling like, man, I mean, if there's a definition of a gut feeling, it was this. It was like, man, just head back to South Carolina, kind of cruise the South Carolina, Georgia line. And that's what I did, you know, and then I just would stop occasionally, look at the HRRR model, tropical tidbits, and it just for hours on end kept showing a few supercells popping up down there. Sure enough, one popped up right there and got that. That was that one where I was like, okay. Now, the one in Alabama was a tornado, but that was like, wow, there it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of driving, forest, trees, and then bang, wide open opening. And the video doesn't do it justice, but that thing was just there. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have got so wrapped up in that moment, I probably could have drove another 2 minutes into Allendale and actually saw that thing go right through town because I was just there 25 minutes prior.
Oh,
So I was kind of just teetering, figuring out the storm, but went on to jump on a couple other storms, saw another tornado.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be, now that was you talking about moments in storm chasing where you start to get, you know, that energy, the excitement kind of turns into, okay, I need to reevaluate where I'm at and make sure I'm safe. And I came up to the very last one, I can't remember where I was. Ended up being like an EF2, EF1, but I thought a wedge was about to go right in front of me, the way the radar looked. But turned out it was very just rain wrapped and muffled and stuff. But yeah, that was a wild day, man. And didn't have to drive far. And did a lot of damage.
My favorite chase of yours, well, maybe not my favorite, but
We're the
one
Mitch
of my
West
top-
encyclopedia
I know, right?
here.
I know, we're the Mitch West fan club. Was your one just a couple of weeks ago? You and your daughter go to the mountains
oh,
Man,
for the snowliage,
that's the best.
and
awesome, dude.
it looked like y'all just had the best time. One, it was beautiful, but two, that you were there with your daughter, just having the best time.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of went up there and I thought it was a chance to see some snow. The original plan was actually me and my wife that next Friday, the following Friday, was going to do like a day date and just go to the mountains, cruise the Parkway.
Yeah.
But you know, I text my boss. I'm like, man, there's an opportunity to see two of my favorite things: fall foliage and snow.
Yep.
At the same time.
And I'm going to try to make this happen. And my job is so cool. And they're just like, yeah, man, that's cool. And went up there, went to Waynesville, North Carolina, hopped on the Blue Ridge Parkway really close there and ended up somewhere an area of the mountains I've never really been. Rain turned to snow. Next thing I know, man, it's like an all-out snowstorm up there. So I went from, man, the snow ledge is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're into winter, like another 500,000 feet up. And, it's crazy when you see 3-4 inches of snow on the ground in mid-October, I think anywhere. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
Always great with the family, too. I'm a big family person, so.
I love it.
That's good, too, especially in a weather-driven passion. It is hard to do sometimes. I got to ask, you said work's great. When it comes to work, when it comes to now people know that you do this and you're forecasting in your videos, how many texts you get now that say, hey, Mitch, I got a party. Can you give me a forecast real quick? You got any friends that reach out to you and say, hey?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah.
And
it becomes more and more common.
I'm sure you guys get that a ton also. And, part of you wants to get detailed with them, but most of you knows that they don't want all those details. They just want you to tell them.
Is it going to rain or not?
Yeah. Which is pretty much anybody's.
Yeah.
Just have an interest in
Yeah.
it's like, it's a little bit harder than you think. This could happen, but, at the end of the day, you just kind of shorten it up.
They want that gut feeling all the time, 24/7. So, any other questions you have for Storm Chase before we shoot the breeze?
I don't know. I think we get into shooting the breeze because that always tends to pull out some good stuff.
Okay, cool. We have some questions for you that viewers submitted. We've been teasing your episode for a while, which is awesome.
Right.
I think there was also a couple of questions for Jamie and I. We can all tag on
That's
them.
cool. Sounds good.
Okay, well, this one's not about you. So just hold on a second.
And technically, it could be, though, because I have...
Yeah. Since it's been mentioned now, what are your ideas for season 3 of the podcast?
That's great. We're in research and development.
Yeah, which means we have no idea.
I feel like, too, and you can attest to this, it's like I think of this like a college football team or an artist going out on a tour. You have that one date that you circle and you look forward to, like, this is the game. Like, South Carolina, I know you're not a sports guy.
No,
South Carolina,
I'm just trying to figure out where
Clemson, you
you're
circle the game. That's kind of what this episode was. This was like the blueprint of, I think, what I want season 3 to be like.
More guests.
More guests, but
Love it.
not WMBF guests.
Yeah,
and I know we had Will.
We've done all the people here.
Will's also like the intern of WMBF.
Yeah, he's basically an employee.
But I want more of this because I know there's people that have the passion for storm chasing.
Yeah.
And listen, we've done it, but we haven't done it as much as this guy
No,
has.
not like that.
And when I was doing it as much as he did, technology has changed.
Yeah.
I remember having to go to McDonald's because they didn't have the Wi-Fi, so you were getting all free Wi-Fi.
You sweet, sweet young babies.
Well, I'm talking, there was more before
Let
that.
me tell
but
you
still.
about my first days of chasing.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Literally no internet, nothing, all right? Do you know the AM radio trick?
No.
See, neither one of you know the AM
Are
radio
you
trick.
talking about the travel radio trick?
No,
Okay.
no.
Cool. Like 680 AM?
So I would sit at home and would wait every 10 minutes to see whatever the radar on the Weather Channel would show. Because that was it. That was all you had.
That's awful.
You would have to take that 30 seconds, look at whatever the weather on the 8's radar showed, look outside, look at the clouds. All right, that's about the area I'm going to go. So you get on the road, you start chasing. You're using literally nothing but your eyes and your knowledge of the sky and AM radio. And here's a trick that I still break out every once in a while. If for some reason you don't have your phone or no internet connection, you want to know what a storm's doing, switch your radio in your car over to AM, go all the way down to the lowest channel, which I think is like 530, 540 AM.
Okay.
All right, it's going to be static. All you're going to hear is static. But when there are cloud to ground lightning strikes, there's a quick pulse of static that shows up. And that's how you could tell
Where the
how
storm's
much
going.
lightning is in a storm.
You would do that? You would utilize that?
I would literally use it. So as I would be chasing,
That is awesome.
obviously if you're getting constant pops of static on AM radio, you're like, all right, this storm is still really cranking. Well, you start losing that lightning, and I'm like, this storm's starting to weaken. And then usually, sure enough, you could see, that storm's falling apart.
Wow.
And that works within about a 50-mile radius.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's old school chasing, you little babies.
What's your idea for
Spoiled.
season 3?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever you have planned.
Nice.
But
I'd like to get a photographer, too.
photographers, because we got a lot of photographers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to open my mouth.
Oh,
Just
okay.
yet.
Uh-oh. Don't know what that means.
I think this was technically your question, but I'll take it. YouTube is a big platform for Are You Serious? How do you see the future for weather growing on places like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok?
Let's ask our fellow YouTuber.
Are you TikToking?
I am.
Oh, you are? I don't think I follow you on TikTok.
I make 1 minute clips, but I haven't made one since Idalia. It's just a lot to keep up with.
It is a lot.
But I'm sure you guys know about TikTok. It's
Not really.
It's
I'm on it, but we don't do
well,
weather
as
content.
far as it gets a lot of criticism, and
Yeah.
it should. It's kind of just like YouTube. Things are hyped up, but I utilize it sometimes, especially when it's a local deal, when it's a Southeast deal.
Yeah.
And especially during the wintertime. I love tracking winter weather. So, but YouTube, I think it's going to do nothing but grow, man.
Yeah.
I really do. And, there's going to be some bad apples, some good ones. And
Like everywhere.
Yep.
My thing about TikTok is I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong because, I will sort of scroll occasionally, but I've never posted anything. I don't really know that TikTokers are our audience. Am I wrong there?
See, that's where I struggle with it.
I feel like just in my head, and maybe again I'm wrong because I know a lot of people are on TikTok. I feel like it's like 17-year-old girls who are like
Doing dances.
doing dances. And do they really care?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that opens up a good conversation of like eventually they will be a prime.
Eventually they will be.
But I just don't. Here's our problem, Mitch. Here's our inside for our viewers too. There's so much social media now.
I don't want to add another
We're
one.
already being pushed to do more in like social media facets. I don't know. And we jumped on Threads because everyone was like, "Hey, Threads is great. Threads is dead.
Awful.
It's
Which
terrible."
I'm so happy about. I'm so
Yeah, me
happy
too.
it failed because, man,
'Cause it was awful.
The 2 days I was on Threads, like having to post on both and everything, it was ridiculous. I was like, no, thank God that's dead.
But yeah, I know YouTube's going to be a big thing for us going forward. It's kind of where this develops.
Especially when we make that $100.
Yeah, right. When we get our check or direct deposit. But I just don't know. I feel like it's easier for us to look at people like Mitch that say, hey, he's having success on YouTube. That's going to be a place that we can grow.
Yeah.
TikTok, I don't see a bunch of that yet.
Yeah.
I can tell you, TikTok, it was a testing thing for me.
Yeah.
January 2022 is where my YouTube really popped off, and we actually, had winter weather threats that month. But I tested it out, and I posted a couple things when we had the really big winter storm, Carolina winter storm. It didn't, I don't think y'all got anything in Myrtle Beach, but it was the one in mid-month January. I think there was 3 consecutive weekends, I believe, where there was a winter weather threat.
Okay.
And I think the third one y'all got in some
We got
action.
some
with
snow, and the second one we got some freezing rain. But I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So the first one was the big one. And, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to talk some winter weather on here. And it did well. It did very well. I think now 200,000 views on TikTok is not the same as 200,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah.
Growth-wise, I feel like TikTok is a great platform to promote your YouTube on, and that's what I utilized it as. You ain't gonna make a whole lot of money on TikTok. I think 1 million views on TikTok was $30 a year ago. So 1 million views on YouTube, it varies. It could be a couple $1,000. I don't know. I've never had a video with 1 million views, so I've never had one.
Can you start promoting Are You Cirrus on TikTok?
Oh, I got you. I'm gonna post this one.
I mean,
A little playlist.
Michael, our digital guy, if he could start posting some clips to TikTok and
we
pushing
need-
to YouTube.
We need TikTok apparently.
We don't
'Cause
know
we're not doing it. I use TikTok for the horribly insensitive memes that people send me, that friends send me. That's kind of my
It's a lot to keep up
my
with.
extent.
It
of
is,
TikTok.
but you've done a great job with it. So, yeah, I don't know what the future looks like, but hopefully YouTube is a good, successful platform.
We're definitely not leaving. Easy for me to say, leaving YouTube.
No, we can't. Not
Yeah.
with the success that we've had.
No.
This is a Mitch West question.
Right.
Oh,
And it's funny because we've been talking about how Mitch, and I do want to say Aaron's sick.
Yep.
We're supposed to bring on Aaron. Aaron, we're going to get you on for season 3. You let us know when you're coming down. What are some tips you have for someone wanting to get into storm chasing? What's the best way to start?
this is gonna sound really generic, but just do it.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I know that's not gonna be a helpful tip, but I think that fear holds some people back, and I'm not saying that's the case for that specific person, but I think not just with storm chasing, but with a lot of things, people think that only certain people can do it, and that's not true. You know, that's not true at all. And anybody can do it. You know, my tip would be to start local.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
start local. I mean, I would even say just your county. You know, chase some summer storms, and then, you know, we are always to get at least one tropical threat. It seems like a year. You know, maybe drive around out in that, check that out. And I mean, that's how I started. You know, I started local, and then maybe, I don't know, try to maybe drive to a slight risk. You know, don't go right into a high risk. That's kind of what I did. But but maybe drive to a slight or enhanced risk, maybe in Georgia or something. You know, check that out. And but as far as what you need, you know, I would certainly have a reliable car, and not everybody's blessed to have a second car, but I'm lucky to be able to, well, right now it's Idalia jacked it up, but but I'm lucky to drive my wife's high school Mazda, and that has been a trooper car. When I saw obviously what it did in Idalia, it was amazing. But anyways, start local. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and like you were saying, starting local, which is one of the first things I was going to say. It doesn't have to be a big, severe storm. A lot of times you and I, because like we said, we can't chase much at all because, you know, if it's bad enough to chase locally, it means we're going to be here.
Right.
But a summer afternoon, if there's a Saturday afternoon and a good-looking sea breeze storm pops up, I'll go out there and just hang out with it. Figure, you know, go in it, hang out just outside of it, learn the structure, learn clouds. And I think one of the great things, too, especially for people who maybe don't have a lot of in-depth meteorological knowledge, you don't need it. Take a Skywarn class that the National Weather Service offers.
It is awesome. Yep.
One, you'll learn a lot, and two, if you become Skywarn certified, then you can also kind of help out the National Weather Service, and you're not just out there for the heck of it. If you see hail, if you see strong winds, you can call up the National Weather Service and report that, and if you're Skywarn certified, that means there's a lot more credibility behind it.
Yeah.
So you're doing a public service. You're also out there sort of helping yourself, and then just watch.
Yeah.
Watch Mitch. Watch videos. It's one of my favorite things to do on a quiet night is watch storm chasing videos and just see how it's done. And like you said, just you got to do it.
Yeah.
You
Ask
gotta do
questions as well.
Yeah.
Now there will be some chasers, and I'm not going to name names, that probably won't answer your questions. But ask. You're not going to know anything until you ask. If you have questions, you can send us a message. We'd be glad to help out in any way we can. Don't forget to take your photos and send them our way. Not because we're going to use them and like make money off of them, but I would love to promote if you're out there doing something.
Yeah.
Hey, check out this local storm chaser. You could get more from them. It's never about us making money off of someone else's photos, which I always hate.
Yeah. But also keep your expectations low.
Yeah.
Because for all of the great video that shows up of a tornado in Allendale or whatever, there is the 13 hours of driving.
Yep.
There is all of the chases
That can go into another.
where you don't see anything. Where you don't see anything. Even, you know, I've chased out in Tornado Alley. You know, you're out there I was out there for 2 weeks in grad school.
Really?
And we had storms on 3 days. The rest of the time, you're driving in the dusty plains looking for something.
That's why it's hard for me to do these chasecations, man.
Yeah,
Like, you see all these storm chasers that do that, and you know, there's a good chance you're gonna hit something. But man, I ain't planning. I'm not planning like 3 or 4 months in advance to go out there for 2 weeks and hit a dud.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got a lot of money to blow, I guess, but you know, not everybody's got a lot of money to blow. So.
Yeah, I feel like the way you're doing it is a very effective way. I see a lot of people that go out there in April and May, and they said, all right, this is my 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I get a little worried about that because what happens if you get a ridge, you know? Good luck.
That said, I'm kind of planning on it
Oh, well, good luck.
next April because
Yeah.
we're going down for the hurricane conference in South Texas in April. Then 3 days later is the total eclipse. So I'm doing an eclipse vacation because that's where I'd always want to see another total eclipse after the one here. And then after the eclipse, I'm like, yeah, I'm in Texas.
Well,
I may as well stay a couple extra days just to see
never know.
if I can get into something.
It's been
Now,
quiet out there
my
the
luck,
last couple years.
my luck, it'll probably be a ongoing drought that week.
Yeah.
But I'll, everything is just lining up where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. It's been a long time since I've chased out there. So
It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Your turn.
is it my turn again? We're coming to an end on season 2. Are there any episodes you wish you would have gone longer on? What 5 episodes would you recommend to someone wanting to go back and watch the podcast? Wow, this
It's
is
a
good.
two-parter. The first season felt rushed,
Yeah,
but not because we planned it that way. I just don't think we expected it to be.
right.
Like, I knew you and I love weather. Like, we could bring anybody on who loves weather and talk. But some of those first episodes were like 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's not.
I
Nearly.
feel bad about those, but
Yeah.
it was a start. 5 episodes you would recommend. Seriously, Gonna Snow.
Love it.
Winter Weather, you said it. Does so well. Hugo.
The Hugo episode, I feel like we could have just gone on and on.
We could have went 3 hours on Hugo.
Yeah.
I really do believe that.
The tropical episode where
Let's
we got
get
into
tropical.
the cone, into the cone stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have.
Went for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else.
If you're looking for something fun, I feel like we probably could have gone all day with Lauren.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd never tell her that in person, but still one of my top favorite episodes.
Matt was good, but I feel like Matt was, once he was done, he was done, you know.
Yeah.
I listened to y'all's thoughts on this winter, and I was listening to it just blowing the leaves out in the backyard, and I was really wanting y'all to go longer. I was wanting y'all to just get nerd out on the predictions, but that was a great episode.
Thank you.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this then. We'll put you in if you listen to that episode. First accumulating snow in Charlotte. You have a date?
I'm gonna go late January.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
just-
But that's now that we're seeing the pattern.
Yeah.
And I know that's so, like standard, but that's when I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a bold prediction several months ago on Twitter. I was like, we're going to have a major winter storm in the Carolinas in December. I didn't say where, but it was more so because I wanted to have it so bad.
I get it.
And, but man, it's hard seeing that, but
I'm kind of, while we're here on the topic.
You're going to go back?
No.
Okay.
I think what I say, January 17th, I think was my prediction.
Yeah.
I'm still happy with kind of what we're thinking for the winter. I'm a little nervous about December.
Yeah.
I think it may take a while for us to kind of get into the cold. Just kind of what I'm seeing long range. We may have to wait a little while to
a lot of people definitely think it's going to be warm, especially.
crank into maybe once past Christmas. Of course, everything can come crashing down. So it's just there's some hints out there that December may end up a little bit on the warm
Yeah.
side.
I think you were January 17th, and then I was like the 12th.
Yeah.
December could be a little fun. Severe weather set up in the southeast. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. I think it's going to rain a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Which we desperately need.
Yep. We got one more.
One more. All right. I think we gave 5 episodes. If not, you get it. Oh, this is good. Can you give me a time where you had your biggest failure in the business? What was it, and how did you grow from it? I'm going to add this to Mitch, too, especially with storm chasing. Your biggest failure, storm chasing. We'll let you go first if you know it off the top.
Oh.
As I think of my answer.
This spring and the spring before. No, never mind. It just came to my head. Man, I forgot what I felt like it was like the name off Frozen. What was the hurricane? Elsa.
Yes.
Wasn't that the one that fell apart? Like it was looking good, got to a Category 1, and then it imploded basically.
No, because Elsa held together pretty good when it came up through here. Because we had some.
Man,
We had some stuff. Went
Yeah,
into
we
the
had
Florida
a
Panhandle.
tornado warning in
it was.
Elsa.
Yeah.
I know it was in July. It was in July of 2021.
Okay.
Maybe that was Elsa.
It was Elsa.
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
it
It was a
was.
tropical storm moving through the Carolinas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it strengthened into a hurricane briefly.
Yeah.
And it looked like one of those classic systems that's going to strengthen upon landfall.
Yeah.
So I made a spontaneous decision. I was, thinking about it all day. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drive all the way down to Tampa. I'm gonna check this out. Brutal drive. And I will add, there's no AC in my Mazda.
Oh my God.
No AC.
Has it been that way for a while?
Yeah, I hit a deer and it never came back. It's
Remind
like the
me
deer.
to never chase me.
Yeah.
That just made this entire episode.
Yeah.
Like,
Florida in July, you guys know.
And there is nothing more humid than a hurricane.
No,
And
man.
oh God, and no air.
So I got down there. Bryce was down there, but I met him maybe for an hour, and this thing just and what stunk is, it was around Gainesville. You could see this thing just fell apart, and I'm like, I'm this deep into Florida, and I'm just basically drove down here for no reason. So I was like, I'm going to commit to this. Went all the way down to Clearwater, filmed what I could. I basically drove all the way. I left at 2 p.m. in Columbia, drove all the way to Clearwater, Florida. Drove around, watched some 25, 35 mile per hour wind gusts, and I barely even got out of my car. And then I just drove all the way back. I stopped at a rest stop for 2 hours. And I literally drove all the way back, and I was back in Columbia by like lunchtime the next day. And that was a grind and just a complete failure. And I had a lot of bad chases this spring, but it was good because these threats did not materialize. There was a lot of enhanced and moderate risk that luckily did not materialize this past spring, and I chased just about every single one that didn't. And those were some hard chases, but it was good. It was good. You kind of drive back in those chases like, you know what, wasted money, but you're not going to hit every single time.
You're not, and
enjoying your passion.
And that's also the reality of storm chasing, like we were just saying. For every one you hit, there's going to be a lot that you miss.
Yep.
Yeah. Biggest failure.
Storm chasing?
Well, no, just in the business. We're not going to talk about the snowstorm again. Do you have another one?
Oh man.
we were talking about the snowstorm on Twitter a while ago. Yeah, the January 18th
I won't make you explain
snowstorm
it again.
failure. Yeah, that was on a couple of previous. We could do a whole podcast on that day.
Yeah. Or another big miss.
To this day, and this isn't great, and it's doesn't compare to your storm chasing stories, but we had, I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was 2020, maybe 2021. We had a couple of massive hailstorms move through Horry County, and I just happened to be off that day. It was on a Friday, and I was like, I'm going to get out and chase. And when I tell you we had hailstorms, we don't usually get big hailstorms around here. We had a storm go through northern Horry County that was dropping baseballs.
Yeah.
And I love hail. I'm like, if I'm chasing, I'm trying to get into the big hail. I want to see the big hail. I don't care about my car. That's why I have insurance. I want to see the big hail. So this storm was dropping baseballs in between Conway and Aner. And I was like right on its tail. And I made one wrong turn and missed that hail core by literally probably 2 minutes. And when I finally got sort of corrected back on where I needed to be, the road that I was driving on somewhere out in Horry County, the sun was out and there was baseball size hail just laying on the ground everywhere. And I missed it by just that much. And around here, a lot of times, storms are moving fast. The roads are like this, and it's tough to catch up with a storm that's hauling at 50 miles an hour. You just if you don't get that intercept, it's hard to catch up. So I knew I had lost my opportunity. But man, seeing that big hail sitting on the ground, that was a tough one.
My biggest mistake, and we've mentioned this before. I remember at least mentioning the theme of it. Had family in town. This was back when I was in Eastern Kentucky. Family wanted to go out to eat. I had to pick up a weekend shift. I was the chief at the time. Pick up a weekend for someone that was off. Said, no worries, quiet day, whatever. It'll be what it is. It's August or July. I just remember it was super hot, super humid. Radar's clean. Get done, 6:30 show. All right, cool. I'll meet you at the restaurant. Drive 20 minutes across town. And I remember, okay, cool. This is going to be a nice evening. Saturday night, go. I'll come back for the 11. Get a phone call from my news director. I'll get to it in a second. I'm with family. All of a sudden, Facebook starts to blow up, and I see, live stream severe storm dam. One storm blew up around 8 p.m., right before sunset. Microbursts through a small town. Trees down, houses destroyed, dropped 4.5 inches of rain, just sat. And I'm at dinner, and I will never forget seeing the second phone call come in.
You know when it's the second phone call that it's going to be bad.
And I said, "Oh, let me get this." And then he said, "Hey, we need you to come in." And I remember looking at radar, and I was like, "Oh, what has happened?" Because by the time I got to the restaurant, I ordered my food. I didn't even get to eat that night. It went to like, all right, we're sending reporters out there. And I will never, ever, ever, if there is a small chance of a storm, and I think it's severe, I'm still traumatized by it, even if we're doing weekend fill-ins. I will never fall asleep. I will never go out and play. I will make sure I can get to the station as quick as possible if I need to.
My very, very
You learn once.
My very, very early days here was similar. I was working weekends, did the 6 p.m. show, nothing on radar, everything was fine. At the time, I lived in Surfside. You know, from our station in the heart of Myrtle Beach all the way down to Surfside Beach, it's a haul. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm going to go home, have some dinner. I'll roll back in 9 o'clock for the, Got home, fixed my plate, tornado warning. I'm like, what? Yeah. One storm popped up in Darlington County, dropped a tornado. Man, I have never gone so fast up Highway 17. And I mean, it ended up being an EF2 crazy video, but yeah, those will.
I've had a tornado warning happen too.
Those will mess with you.
Yeah, for sure. Crazy that we've been talking for an hour now
Already. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like we need to at least start to wrap up. First, I want to ask Mitch, what's next for Mitch West Weather? Any big plans in the horizon? Other than tracking snowstorms, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the Carolinas.
Yeah, of course. I'm hoping for a big winter. I think we all are.
Yeah.
Hoping for a big winter, even if it's just one storm. Last winter was tough. I mean, I love talking weather about anywhere, but of course, when you're breaking down a winter storm and you're in your backyard, it's a whole different story. But hoping for the success of the winter. My wife is actually in school to be an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
So YouTube, which was kind of a hobby thing, is actually replaced. It's kind of like the second income now that, because she had to quit her job to finish school. So definitely hoping for a successful winter weather, hoping, for no severe weather outbreaks or anything like that. But the future is just continue to get the growth and eventually, God willing, if that's the plan, hopefully make doing what I do full time on down the road. But that's on down the road.
Yeah.
Way on down the road. But life comes fast, so you never know.
You're headed in the right direction.
I appreciate
no
it.
doubt
I
about
can tell
it.
you that. For Mitch West, for all of your socials, your YouTube, where can people go? I want to make sure we plug that.
Yeah, YouTube's Mitch West Weather. You type that in, it should come up.
Yeah.
Twitter, I believe it's at SCWeather_WX.
Okay.
Because I started off, I think that's why I started I think that's what it was called. And I have Facebook too, Mitch West Weather.
Yeah.
But definitely the most active on Twitter or X and YouTube. So.
And I will say, if you ever want to dive into like the nitty gritty details, your videos do a great job at that.
I appreciate it.
They're 20 to 30, sometimes longer, and they go into regions. They go into the jet stream stuff that we've talked about here that you all can get on his channel. I want to make sure we say that. Also, I want to make sure we say that next week
It's the big week.
is the big week. So Lombardo's, if you haven't, reservations, call. They're filling up quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they say they're full or whatever, maybe shoot us a message.
Yeah, we'll try to figure it
We
out.
can pull some strings or whatever, but really getting excited for that. Again, if you have pictures of the 1989 snowstorm, we'd love to see those. That's going to be kind of, I feel like we got to cover a little weather that podcast, not
for
just
sure.
cocktails. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And, but still really looking forward to that. That's going to be fun.
Save all your questions for Shooting the Breeze in person. We're going to do that there next week. So we'll bring out a mic, pass it around. If you can't make it, we hate it, but we will also be live streaming.
Yeah.
So you can we'll have someone in there asking questions and answering those. I'm trying to think of anything else. And then we'll break for the holidays.
Yeah, then
Celebrate
come back for season
Christmas.
3. We don't really have a return date yet.
We
but
don't. And
probably January.
Yeah, I would say January, and we're really going to push maybe I've heard a new look.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I heard that yesterday.
A new look. Okay.
Maybe a new look. I don't know. If you've noticed, we actually have like a new logo.
So what, we're going to move a book?
No.
That's about all we can afford with our $76 income.
Got to get $100 payout.
There's our new look.
Slightly adjust, put the coffee mug here.
Right.
I've also heard if we maybe need some new furniture, we can ask for that.
Okay. So we got other big stuff coming for 2024. We'll talk about that in season 3.
He just dropped a big
We'll talk about
teaser.
that later. Yeah.
Mitch, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. Thank you for making the trip down here. And yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Anything we could do for you, don't be a stranger.
Yep.
You know that.
Appreciate y'all very much.
That does it for episode 33.
3.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you all for the live episode 34 next week.
Thanks, y'all.